Die Grenzwacht hielt im Osten dem Feinde lange stand. Heut kehrt ihr letzter Posten zurück ins Vaterland.
So, another day, another dramatic story, as is common enough. Murdered Uber driver and mother of 4 begged passenger not to kill her. Now I'm going to be reading a little bit on the New York Post because the more left-wing kind of media, if you can call it that, is useless. Completely useless. The right-wing media is useless, but we can at least look at things and hopefully start to talk to our people, be very clear with them what they need to work on in their articles. It's kind of obvious. They start with a Pennsylvania Uber driver. Now there's one key that they typically use. They'll refer to people by their state, as if that tells you a lot about the people. You know, maybe it's a woman, maybe it's a man, maybe they just crossed the border, maybe they didn't. Who knows? But they're from a state at some point, in some place and time, some connection. They're all atomized individuals, only identifiable by their zip code. But, 22-year-old Calvin Cruz got picked up. Ubers are expensive, by the way. Or they can be. Often. So what we're looking at is this woman was driving Uber. She's 38. She's a mother of 4. She's hopefully trying to keep care of her kids. She's doing the best she can. And she also had a fiance. And there's this younger guy with some money to spend on an Uber. Now, what was he doing there? Killing her, of course. That's what happened to this story. And there's him, Calvin Cruz. Now, what do we see in these pictures? And what do we see across this article? Well, it's a typical enough story. Someone who probably had more money than her was going after her and decided to kill her. Now, another thing we can note in these articles, often they say robbery, robbing, botched robbery, failed robbery. How much sense does that make? Who robs Ubers? Is there a lot of money there? I mean, if you know how the payment system works, like I said, it's not too much, and Uber takes a lot of the money. You got to work hard for that, at least in the sense of you got to drive around a lot, and it's digital money. The money gets passed on directly through the app. So what was the thought exactly? He seems like a deep thinking individual, of course. But what was the thought exactly? Just rob her? All these articles, especially the right-wing ones, they'll insist that this was a botched robbery. But how does that make sense? Why do we let them say that? Why do we let them say that that made any sort of sense? No, the only logical explanation, especially as you read through the dashcam transcript, even the quotes that they kind of have to include, not much is said about money. What's said is simply he wants to get a ride somewhere, and he already has his gun out, and maybe he reassures her just a little bit, but the intention of murder seems pretty clear. And I don't see how this has anything to do with money. He doesn't talk about money. That doesn't seem to be his interest. It seems to be that she did beg for her life, and he heard that, and that didn't matter to him. It didn't matter to him probably because she is a member of the people who don't matter. The genetic group that not even your right-wing media here is going to mention specifically. Maybe they'll give us a picture that at least helps to indicate, but they're not going to make her name into something big. They're not going to mention especially her race because she doesn't matter in their narrative. Her life doesn't matter. And the reality is, this is the exact programming that you've had your entire life. It's the only programming that could possibly be used to get us to where we are now. Because you can look at all the ads on this page. You can look at this event. You can look at how common this event is. How this story is, to a great degree, the same as that other recent story about a woman who was begging for her life from not one but two non-whites who decided to ignore her pleas and, with complete cold-hearted disregard, extreme hatred, probably based on her being the villain in their narrative, just decided to go ahead and kill her. And that's a common thing. One of the iron laws, after all, of news reporting is that it's very easy to make the exception into the story. Man bites dog, dog bites man. So the rare thing can become a more sensationalized story. Very simple. We should therefore understand that whatever the news is telling us, whatever they decide to make into a large story, often the exact opposite is true. And we used to know this. We should know that whenever they say anything, really, whenever they give their support to one race, there's probably a problem there. And there's probably a very real problem. All of this together, though, it's not about this particular story. It's about the issue, the news, the programming, and importantly, how are you going to react to it? Are you going to go ahead and repost this video or make an equivalent video? Are you going to repost an equivalent article? Maybe find a good article that actually mentions in a little bit more detail what happened here. Are you going to maybe make a particular post with your exact words that might be most effective of all? Because you'll say exactly what's important here to lead people along to understanding that this is a problem and her life did matter. And are you going to instead, though, stay silent? Because to speak up about this problem might imply that you are concerned. Well, that'd be bad. We can't be concerned because we can't have a villain in our narrative. We can't have heresy. Let's use that word especially. We can't have heresy against our government's decisions. Our government's decisions to diversify, aka make less white. We can't have that as a problem. We can't be upset about that. We can't be feeling as if we're in some sort of danger. No, of course, the government is perfect. We can't have any heresy. No heresy against this. We can't mention the issues. Can't mention some dangers, some suffering. But right here, what I want to fixate on is there's two moral realities to realize right here. This woman and many others could have a more easy time surviving if you speak up now. There could be a lot more that could be done to ensure white well-being if you speak up now. You could be a hero. And that might seem odd to you. You're like, well, no, we can't do that. We can't show concern in this particular case because these lives don't matter. Or more accurately even, the lives of the aggressors here matter more because you have completely and totally accepted the anti-white narrative that says that this sort of situation is, relatively speaking, acceptable. It's the price that it's okay to pay because, well, we've gotten absolutely nothing, but it's okay to pay it because some moral whatever word garbage they seek to say. Ultimately, all the words that they say still serve to perpetuate this situation, the continuation of this exact situation, the obfuscation for that matter. Like I said, one of the main reasons I'm doing this particular video is because I recognized how dramatic this story is. Now, there's even dash cam footage, but just like David Geary, which I covered, I could recognize, precisely because it could be such a dramatic story, that this will also disappear very quickly. Just wait, just watch and wait. If you don't believe me, this story is going to disappear very quickly. And one of the main reasons for that, though, it's not even the news, it's your morality. It's what you've internalized. It's that lack of resolve, that lack of concern that you have accepted. It's that moral emptiness which you believe you need to have, because if you were concerned for white well-being, then you would commit heresy against the wishes of the powers that be. You would commit heresy against the regime itself. And what does this tell you in all then? I should hope that it tells you that the regime itself has a very deliberate goal. The news it covers, the news it doesn't cover, the names that it celebrates and the names that it demonizes. All this narrative, constantly, the little things and the big things, come together to victimize all Western kind. They always come together to take down your defenses and to create this exact situation, perpetuate this exact situation. And it's precisely because of accepting those little falsehoods, those comforting little stories, or not even comforting, but you accept them, the stories that are forced upon you from a young age, and you accept that as a morality instead of a real morality. Instead of a morality that actually looks at the world, that actually cares. So it's time. It's very much time to be a hero. It's time to care. It's time to say that this is not acceptable as an event, and it's not acceptable as an overall situation. We do want to see it changed. So please, don't be a hero tomorrow or the next day. Go ahead and be it today and live your life that way. It's time for us to completely fix our morality. And we will never be able to do that unless we can be in some way white positive in the face of this. Thank you.
Ich darf nicht länger zagen, bald zwingt sie euren Sinn, nach Ostland sie zu tragen. Sie will, sie muss dorthin. Nach Ostland sie zu tragen, sie will, sie muss dorthin.